And welcome to another edition, a very happy edition of Defo on 5 for the Heat Nation out there that is following the Miami Heat. Your Miami Heat. They're becoming our Miami Heat, Mike Lubie Lubitz. As nervous as you were, as paranoid as you were, as really, just negative as you were about the whole idea of the Celtics Heat series. You did have it going 7 games, Celtics winning. You weren't unlike a lot of people that just refuses to embrace the idea that the Miami Heat, as an 8 seed, as a seed that was nearly eliminated completely. I mean, they were nearly ungerminated, planted in the ground there in that playing game against the Chicago Bulls. We keep going back to that for a reason, because this run came from the absolute bottom of the earth that they're making right now. Now up 1-0 on the Boston Celtics, and I think Mike Lubie Lubitz, that our question, the answer, it's becoming obvious, is closer to yes than it is to being completely far fetched. And that is a standard question that we're now asking as a measuring stick, a barometer of how good of a coach is Eric Spoelstra. And we've been asking people on our regular show, the Defo Show on South Florida Live, which we do implore you to subscribe to. Very easy, right? How do you subscribe to this, Lubie? How are you, by the way? You must be in great spirits today.
Go to YouTube. I mean, it's pretty easy. I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm just in awe of how this team can keep doing it. It's just
You kind of fluffed over the instructions there. Go to YouTube and what? Subscribe to South Florida Live. You catch the Defo Show with Mike Lubie Lubitz every day, right?
you guys
2 hours a day.
It's not hard. If you found us here, you can find us there. South Florida Live on YouTube. And we'd love for you to subscribe to us there. You get us in all of our glory instead of just this 20-minute.
This is the abridged edition. This is the Cliff Notes of what we do.
And you
It
get
really is.
as well.
We find ourselves running out of time before we've had time to say our name. Which it's not that we need more time. We just need to pack more into the time that we have. But you're kind of I don't know. I mean, it wasn't impossible to see the Heat winning this game against the Celtics. The Celtics are now 4-4. We've been saying all along the Celtics are vulnerable. It did seem like the deck was stacked against the Miami Heat because the Celtics appear to have more firepower, but that is not the case. And that brings us back to our question, which is if Eric Spoelstra, excuse me, was an assistant on Red Klotz's staff. Red Klotz, of course, for the younger people, have no idea who Red Klotz is. They wouldn't know him from Red Auerbach or Red Holzman. Red Klotz, the fabled clown prince of basketball coaches, was the coach of the Washington Generals, and they famously went like 1-5,270 against the Globetrotters over the years. Now, these were staged events. This was very Vince McMahon-esque. But, and I don't know that any coaching expertise could help. In fact, Red Klotz might have been the greatest coach in basketball history just to win that one game. But we've been asking people, and people, that we have great respect for their opinion. People like Ron Rothstein, the writer Sean Devaney from Heavy.com. We asked, I don't know if we ran that by Grant Long. We ran it by Scoop Skolnick of 5 Reasons Sports Network. And we ran it by somebody yesterday that was on with us. Oh, Len Robbins, I think. No, whatever. We've had a survey, and everybody kind of likes the question, but nobody really dives into saying yes. But I think it's clear now that if Eric Spoelstra was on Red Klotz's staff and he was an assistant coach with the Generals, they might have gone 500 against the Globetrotters. Is that possible, Louie? 500. Never mind winning one more game. They might have gone 500. Now, this is the best halftime adjustment that you could possibly make, and Spoelstra clearly made it yesterday. He said, listen, you blind assholes, you got to start shooting the ball and making shots. And they did. That third quarter was explosive. 46-25 in the third quarter. The Miami Heat last night. 46-25 in the third quarter. They run away from a 9-point deficit, take command of the game. Really never relinquished it. I think it got down to like 4. Did it get down to 3 in the fourth quarter? But the Heat had answers every time, whether it was Jimmy Butler, who was spectacular again. You know what's funny? I almost texted you during the game, Louie, that playoff Jimmy looked like preseason Jimmy for a good portion of the game. He was playing that game where he was in it, but he wasn't really. And it's interesting because he played 43 minutes, supposedly hurt. We were speculating about upper body injuries to go along with the ankle injury. Neither appeared to be an impediment once we got to the late stages of the third quarter and the fourth quarter of that game, but where Butler was spectacular. But everybody else was making a contribution. You had this happen. You had Struess, you had Lowry, you had Vincent, you had Martin, all getting 15 points.
Yep.
Kevin Love even hit a couple of 3-pointers there. Very efficient, big runs with 3-pointers. And the Miami Heat on 3-pointers throughout the game, 16 of 31.
Yeah, man.
You do that, and especially this is a Boston Celtics forte. They outscore you from the 3-point stripe. They attempt like 43 pointers a game on the average. They only attempted 27 last night. Great job. Well, whatever Spoelstra did, it worked. It could have worked for the Generals. Are you a believer now? I mean, guys, that's the best halftime adjustment you can make. Tell your team to shoot better, and they did.
I've been telling you to shoot better for a while. Look, it's pretty clear, and the fact that people are still finding this out, I think it's weird because it's been 4 years. When Jimmy plays well, they play well. That's literally the difference. Like, what is the difference between the Bucks and the next series? The next series, Jimmy was hampered, and it kept getting worse. And thank God they won that series in 6. Like, I that those five, and that's why I was like, okay, good. They're gonna get almost a week off. Like, there's got to be whatever's going on with Jimmy. He needs some time. He looked like the guy we saw versus the Bucks. He looked like the guy that was running the offense, leading the charge. Yeah, the second and third quarter, he did the thing where he sort of like uh, reserves himself, but Bam took over. Like, Bam was willing to be the aggressor in that second quarter. And then, yeah, the Celtics ran out, but by then Butler was allowed to get rest. Butler sat like 4 minutes going into the second quarter, and he was able to sit at the end of the third, and that allowed him to just do what he does in the fourth. And that's what he did. Like, he started the game, and he ended. He never, even the games where he was great. If you notice, he had like 12 in the third, and then it was like he exploded in the fourth. Like, he hasn't done a LeBron in Boston where he's been great an entire game. He picks his spots. He started strong, he ended strong. But those 4 guys, Lowry was great in the second quarter, and Bam was great in the second quarter. And that's how Jimmy does it. But we've seen them hit their shots when Jimmy's like that. In the next series, it's I'm convinced. Like, when Jimmy was down, they literally go by way of Jimmy. If Jimmy's up, they're hitting shots. If Jimmy's down, they're not. I don't know why, because it's the same wide open shots, but you can just see the whole team feeds off the dude, and they're a totally different animal when he looks like that guy.
Well, they fuse the momentum of Jimmy Butler that he creates, and he's doing it in a variety of fashions. It wasn't just shooting; he had a spectacular run of jump shots, all very difficult and highly contested jump shots there in the fourth quarter. And then on top of that, the hustle plays were incredible, and that seems to be the thing that sparked up and inspired the other Heat players to start shooting the basketball a lot better. 16 of 31 from three. Think about this: this was the worst 3-point shooting that we've ever seen from a Heat team during the course of the season. They, I believe, ranked worst in the league in 3-point shooting efficiency. This has turned around completely. It's a 180. It's an about face through the playoffs. They were much more efficient in the Milwaukee series. They shot the ball well in the Knicks series from 3-point range and get off to a phenomenal start. So the question remains, as the media and virtually everybody in the basketball world was unanimous that the Celtics will win this series, are the Celtics really that much better of a team than the Miami Heat after what we witnessed last night? You would have to say no. And then the other thing is this Jekyll and Hyde nature of the Boston Celtics, which in this case, it wasn't for an entire game, but it certainly was over the course of a half, where the Heat, who also were extremely efficient with the basketball, I think late in the fourth quarter, they finally committed their third turnover of the second half. They had 11 in the first half.
Yes.
And really were kind of playing into the Celtics' hands. The Celtics weren't playing great, but they weren't bad. They were very efficient. They looked like the Boston Celtics that had just knocked off the Philadelphia 76ers. Took them 7 games to do that. You would think that the Heat come in with kind of a lesser lineup, would be a lighter assignment for the Boston Celtics. And yet they came in with the firepower in that third quarter. Dominating performance there. Jimmy Butler, great. Now up 1-0 with home court advantage in the series established in the Heat's favor. And do you think that was enough to alter the thinking of most of the people that are observing this series? Because I'm not sure after watching what we saw last night that the Celtics really have that much better of a team. You were saying this all along, that the Celtics didn't appear to be a juggernaut or overwhelmingly more talented than the Miami Heat, but they might have had a slight differential in depth, especially with Tyler Hero and to a lesser extent Victor Oladipo out of the lineup. But I don't know. I mean, well, what you saw last night, was not exactly convincing. If you're a Bostonian, you might be choking on your chowder today, thinking, "Oh my God, and here we go again." The Heat in Game One of every series has won Game One. They have a phenomenal record with Jimmy Butler in Game One performances during his 4 years with the Miami Heat, and they now have a 1-0 advantage with, as we like to say, a free roll in what could be a pivotal Game Two in Boston tomorrow night. Great stuff, huh? And somewhat surprising, was it not? Were you already resigned to the idea that, after watching that first half, Boston probably wins Game One? You thought maybe the third quarter would be the critical thing. If the Heat are going to do anything, they have to obviously win the third quarter. Somehow they went into the locker room, found a way to do it, and find themselves now 3 games away from a spot in the finals against either the Denver Nuggets or the Los Angeles Lakers, who swing back into action tonight, with the Nuggets favored by 5.5, coming off a 6-point win over the Lakers in game number one. What do you think in there? Do the Lakers make a representative showing in tonight's ball game, or do the Nuggets further establish their superiority by blowing the Lakers out of the water, which is entirely possible?
I mean, look, the Lakers made it a game, so uh, I wouldn't put it past them to even the series. I just find this weird thing that people were doing it last night with the Heat. That, well, the Celtics won 3 of the 4 quarters. Did they win it? I don't give a shit who scored more at the end of the quarter. If you watch that game, he controlled the first. He dominated the third, and they controlled the fourth. Yeah, they were up by so much that, yes, Boston may have won the quarter in the fourth. They didn't win the quarter. The Heat never let the league get under 4, and by the end, they won coasting.
Yes.
That's a weird thing.
The Celtics outscoring the Heat by 5 points in the fourth quarter is meaningless in that game.
And the same thing with the first. Like, you left the first going, oh shit, okay. We have this. It's what I told you. If we get this Jimmy, I don't give a shit what the score is early in the game, because Jimmy doesn't do it then. If we get this Jimmy, we have a different Heat. And that's what you saw.
Amazing to see that, because, it still is hard to accept for some reason that Jimmy Butler is this star.
It's crazy.
That is that significant. When they acquired Jimmy Butler, you thought, okay, good player, probably going to make a difference, but they, might need a much more dynamic presence to go along with Jimmy Butler, somebody that can eclipse what Jimmy Butler is capable of bringing to the table to become a championship caliber team. Some people still think that if Jimmy Butler was like your second option, and you had a guy, let's say you had a Jokic, just for example, that would be the ingredient. Obviously, that would make the Heat a vastly superior team, adding a talent like that. But that was the common wisdom, that they really needed another player there, along with Jimmy Butler, to ever be in that category. And yet, here they are, and with Jimmy Butler, their third Eastern Conference Finals in the last 4 years. They did advance to the championship round at 1 year. They made it a little bit tough on the Lakers, who won in the bubble. What was that, a 6-game series?
Oh, and they were down Dragic and Bam.
Yeah.
And the Lakers had their entire team, and it went 6 games.
So I think, a lot of people are revisiting their thoughts about Jimmy Butler after the last 4 years with the Miami Heat, but especially after this playoff run that the Heat are making. And the run continues. So the Heat goes on, the beat goes on. The Miami Heat, winners of Game 1 against the Celtics. And what's good is these games now come in rapid-fire fashion. As they're going to play every other night. No more of those week-long malaises between ball games where you're speculating all day long and tell you're just tired of all of the theories and you just want to see them play. Panthers play tonight. They get in action against the Carolina Hurricanes. Had a nice interview yesterday, if you want to check that out, by the way. The Defo Show, you can Google that. Jeff Rimmer, the former Florida Panther announcer. He was with the team at its inception through 2004, when he left for the Columbus Blue Jackets to become their play-by-play guy because of his close relationship with Doug McClain, who, by the way, Doug McClain, former coach of the Panthers, very popular guy, took over for Roger Nielsen. Nielsen was kind of a quiet, subdued sort. You didn't really know how to read Roger Nielsen. You wouldn't know if he was happy or sad, if he was pleased with the way the team was playing or not. Nielsen, of course, did take the team to the 95-96 Stanley Cup final. That was their big achievement to this point. And now we have with the French Joe Philbin, who could you ever characterize a guy more incorrectly than we did with Paul Maurice? We could not have been any further off. And yet, at the time that we labeled him the French Joe Philbin for what appeared to be just a vapid, distant approach to winning games. They would lose and they'd go to Paul Maurice and he would say, well, I don't know. And that was about it. Congratulations to the other team. He was very much in a Philbin-esque mode. Rarely said anything of any significance that you would look at and go, okay, this guy's really got a handle on what's going on. Turns out it couldn't be any more opposed to the truth. What we were trying to profess here on the program about the French Joe Philbin. He has become a dynamic leader for the Florida Panthers. I guess he always was. Rimmer had good insight into Paul Maurice, who he says he's very friendly with, and says, no, this guy's a real character. And joined us yesterday. So if you want to check that out, a lot of insight into the different things going on, including Sergei Bobrovsky, who right now we are riding the back of a guy. This is the great thing about sports that everybody despised. We are riding his back right into the championship round if we can do it. Notice it's we now too. Used to be
100%.
them. They used to be them. Those guys, man, they suck. But now the Cats also have our attention, and in there, I thought of the two series: Boston versus the Heat, and the Hurricanes versus the Florida Panthers. That the Panthers, because of the obtuse, abstract, existential nature of hockey, probably were in there with a better shot to go to the finals than the Miami Heat had. So we'll see if they can hold serve tonight and take the Hurricanes on their home ice, where home ice has not been a huge advantage in the playoffs. Although the Hurricanes play very well at home, they are not one of those teams that's losing a lot of home games in the postseason. And of course, the Florida Panthers have just been dynamite anywhere that they go, in knocking off the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs in successive series. So that gets underway tonight. That should be a heck of a lot of fun. Marlins winners again over the Nationals yesterday.
Boy, Soler.
Jorge Soler, I didn't realize this. I owe an apology to Jim Sarney, former writer for the Sun Sentinel,
I didn't give him one yet.
who's been touting Soler to me, and we had deemed Soler as a giant Kim Eng mistake. Kim Eng, of course, the general manager of the Marlins, brought him in last year. We've seen that where a guy wins the World Series MVP, but wasn't really having like that great of a career. All of a sudden, he got hot at the right time, won a World Series MVP, helped the team win a championship. You acquire him. I'm thinking back all the way back to the Oakland A's and Gene Tennis. And then you had was it Brian Doyle? It was the guy with the Yankees, Denny Doyle, one of those Doyles. Anyway, they have a big World Series, but they're not really great players. And I thought that about Jorge Soler. Although now with 11 home runs in inning 240, after hovering around the Mendoza line as recently as a couple of weeks ago. So the man's hot. I didn't realize he had 11 home runs. That's a quarter of the way through the season. That would equate out to like a 40 home run season, hitting
Yeah.
on a lousy ballpark most of the time for home runs, like Lone Shark Park. Unbelievable. So the Marlins win again. They're 22-21. They're in second place, ahead of the Mets, ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies, and of course ahead of the dreadful Nationals. And they're doing this while scoring. They have the second lowest scoring total in Major League Baseball. They've scored 150 runs. The only team with less runs right now to this point in the season is the Cleveland Guardians. Other than that, they're behind everybody else, and by a wide margin in terms of runs scored. And it's not like their defense and their pitching has been that brilliant. But they do win these one-run games. That makes them 14-1 in one-run games. Is that managing? What is that? Do we owe Schumacher, some wad of praise that they're winning all of these one-run games? Is that decision-making or just arbitrary luck?
The one thing I give Kemaine credit, because I'm still not ready to give her credit on Soler, is they addressed the bullpen. The bullpen was the total opposite last year. It was like a historically bad year. First of all, they not only had a ton of them, which is weird, but they were really bad in one-run games.
I think they were like minus 40 in terms of one-run games, something like that. Some ridiculous negative differential.
Like some 1962 Mets type shit. Like
Don Mattingly went from having dark hair to gray to almost no hair in the course of the season. Decided to move to Toronto, for God's sake. Get the hell out of here. Left the country. Just said, that's it. I've seen enough of you Republicans. I'm out of here.
Moved to Toronto. They signed like 2 or 3 arms that no one talked about. And those have been the moves so far that have really helped them. Their bullpen is one of the better bullpens in baseball.
Including AJ Shoot the Puck.
There you go. And while they're trying to figure out what the fuck's wrong with Alcantara, Luzardo, Cabrera with his spot starts, your boy Garrett with his spot starts, occasionally turning it on, has been just enough. Look, they're in the wild card as it's. I know it's super early, but we're a quarter of the way through the year.
I started looking at that just this morning. Well, where are they in the wild card chase?
I just want to give them credit. I just want to be like, all right, I mean, a quarter of the way through the year, They're usually
Not
out of
bad.
it.
They could have been buried by now. They're usually mathematically eliminated at this point, and then maybe surge a little bit, sometime in July, and you start thinking, maybe it's not so bad, and then they go back to being garbage again.
Yep.
But 22 and 21 under Schumacher, first year managing the team, and doing it with outscoring any runs, which is amazing. Spectacular in these close games. They know how to win, Movie. That's the key. They've learned how to win. All
Biggest
right. We actually, it's so exciting this time here in South Florida that, we rambled on here. We're almost into our next show. So check out the Defo show, 2 hours, 7 to 9. We'll have the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge as part of that today. That's an all-time favorite of many people here that listen to the radio in South Florida for many, many years. I think we did that for like 25 years. Still doing it. So you can catch that there. Subscribe, South Florida Live, and we'll see you next time on Defo on 5.